Real people, real opinions.
Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.
Ireland's classic hits.
You've got men in power. By the way, we'll come to women in power in a second. I'm not leaving women off the hook on this one, all right? Let me go to Jerry Maguire again. I'll try that one more time anyway.
Show me the money.
Show me the money. Show me the money.
Spot 4 o'clock. I took a long overflow, but still got a
Money! Jerry, does that make you feel good just to say that? Say it with me one time, Jerry.
Show you the money.
Oh, no, you can do better than that, Jerry. I want you to say it with meaning, brother. Hey, I got Bob Sugar on the other line. I better hear you say it.
No. Show you the money.
Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah. Louder.
Show me the money.
That's it, brother, but you got to yell that shit.
Show me the money.
I need to feel you, Jerry.
Show me the money.
Jerry, you better yell.
Show me the money.
Show me the money. And then you got other men in power, of course.
He will not give up power. Under no circumstances will he give up power. He intends to serve at least 2 more terms.
Joe Biden, he will not give up that power. And by the way, can I just point out, it's not just men. Women have been in power.
To those waiting with bated breath for that favourite media catchphrase, the U-turn, I have only one thing to say. U-turn if you want to.
I'm going to be hated for saying this.
Ladies, not for turning.
The ladies not for turning. They're going to be hated for saying this. I thought Maggie Thatcher was a good leader.
To the Queen, to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Marie Antoinette, of course. Let them eat cake. Let them eat cake. Looking back through history, there have been a few crackers. Anyway, this led to a big discussion in the office, and I want to know what you think. Does society have a problem when it comes to the abuse of power by men, or does humanity have a problem with controlling itself once we get a little bit of power? Think back to the bosses you've had. I've heard people say women can be the meanest bosses, and female Garda. Don't even try it. They can be absolute weapons. So what do you think? Is abuse of power, amid all the salacious scandals that are being revealed almost on a daily basis, only a male problem? Or is it male and female? Let me know what you think. The number, as usual, 087 188 0008. That's 087 188 0008. I want to ask you, is abuse of power a male thing or is it female? And have you ever experienced it? Is it a thing? Or are we just delusional? Let me go to Joe. Joe.
Good evening, Niall. How are you doing?
Good, Joe. There's been a lot of powerful men in this world.
Well, there certainly are, and I must congratulate you, dear. I was listening to you earlier. You gave one of the best speeches I ever heard on your podcast.
Oh, thanks very much.
You should be the president of our country. You're the only broadcaster that has the balls to question anything.
Thank you very much indeed, Joe.
And I really enjoy. You would be a great wartime leader. When Churchill used to give those daily wartime briefings. And I'm not talking about that fucking Agent Varadkar. I'm talking about a leader. Like
we'll fight them on the beaches.
When Varadkar was giving daily speeches there during COVID, which was like something out of the historian age.
Well, wasn't Varadkar accused of stealing lines from movies? Well, that's what he was.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I think he was adopting something from the Lord of the Rings or something, or some bloody ancient
something
thing.
like that. Yeah.
But
so Joe, let me get back to what we're talking about, okay? And I'll come back to my speeches in a few minutes. But in relation to men in power in general, and I'm not going to just say men. I think that's unfair. There have been some powerful women throughout history as well. Do you think that once people get into power, they abuse it? Generally speaking,
of course they do. Yeah, so and it's not just men; it's everybody, even including young girls as well.
Yeah, and is that human nature?
I would presume so. Yes.
Yeah,
I would presume so. I think it is human nature because I think once they get a grip of power at all, it's very hard for them to change it,
Yeah.
And they kind of they have, I've noticed it there even a couple of weeks ago there, I was watching the Sunday game Now, I used to love the Sunday game, but since Michael Lester retired, I think it's a lot of rubbish. But there was a debate with Joanne Cantwell and Donald O'Cusick. It was in relation to the Talton Cup. It's a Mickey Mouse trophy that they play in Gaelic football. Now, the debate was in relation to G.A. Gorge, you know.
Yeah.
But your man was giving out about the way that the Mickey Mouse games, like the Talton Cup, are being broadcast instead of a hurling match, like Cork and Tipperary a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And you want nearly hit the face off him. Like, she started accusing him of being abusive and everything, you know.
Right.
And that's what I find, you know. It goes on both sides, Niall, because if you have power, like, you know, someone like Joanne Cantwell now, who's a good broadcaster, but she can be very domineering. And I think it's not just everybody in general. It could be myself. It could be yourself. I think that once you get a taste of power, you can become ruthless. Like, you will always remember Michael Douglas in Wall Street back in 1987.
Yeah.
Probably one of his most iconic roles, Gordon Gekko.
Oh, I remember that,
he always
yes,
said that famous words, greed is good.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Well,
and
we see what's going on in RTÉ at the moment. That's all about greed, isn't it?
Oh, well, RTÉ is a basket case now, to be honest.
It is. I'm sick listening to it.
Not being smart or anything, and I know we all say we'd like to see it gone, but I think the only way for RTÉ is to go back to the way it was back in the 70s.
But here's the thing. And I agree with you, by the way. But here's the thing. In relation to power, okay, let's say, for example, I gave you the job, Joe, tomorrow as the Taoiseach of the country, and I paid you £500,000 for being the Taoiseach of the country. Do you think you would change? Do you think you would become greedy? Do you think you would abuse that power?
I probably would, yes.
Yeah, okay, isn't that the point then, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, you know, we all like, I suppose we all criticise about this one and that one, but if we were all in the same position, we'd all do the same thing as well.
Yeah.
And there's always the saying, there's never any room for nice guys. You have to be a ruthless person in power, like, you know.
Yeah.
But it's also, like, you know, you watch television over the years and there was ruthless characters, like, you know, you had ruthless women characters. And, you know, power is a dangerous thing. It's worse than a drug.
Oh, it is. Well, it is because that's because people with power, you get adrenaline from power. There's chemicals in your brain, serotonin and adrenaline and all those kind of things.
Look at the psychopath that we had running the asylum for the last 3 years.
Do you know what I mean?
For that guy, you know.
Look, personally speaking, I don't want to get into name calling of individuals, but what I'm saying to you is, I would agree with you that NPHET should have never been given the power they were given in Ireland. The government absconded their power.
They're rats. That's why they're the most unpopular government.
Well, they did that on purpose because they didn't want to be responsible for the decisions made. They wanted to blame somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But power. But in relation to what your topic is, power is a major drug, and it affects everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's probably worse now today than it was years ago because I think money has a lot to do with it as well. You know. People like get greedier and greedier, and that proved that during the Celtic Tiger years. You saw the way everybody thought like they were more superior than everyone else, and I think that was the worst thing ever happened to our country, really.
Stay there for a second. Let me go to Fiona as well. Fiona, how are you?
I'm very good, Niall. How are you?
There you go. See, now, Joe is honest at least to a degree, because I said to him, if I gave him the job as the Taoiseach and gave him $500,000 a year, yes, he thinks he would probably abuse that power and be greedier. And I think that's a human nature thing, isn't it?
I think to a certain extent, I don't know, just pinpointing men and women, but men are born with, it's their genetics, a certain amount of control. Some of them take it over the top. It's part of your genetics. You're supposed to be the boss of the house. It's normal.
Well, I think you're right. It is genetic.
It's normal.
It's testosterone.
But some men abuse control in the house. It's the same if you're going to put it on a Taoiseach. You're right. I personally think Micheál Martin, he was great. He brought in the smoking ban. Whoa, did that go to his head?
Do you think so?
Oh, wow, that's gone to his head.
When was that? 2003, was it?
Yeah.
2004,
was it? Thanks, Joe.
Absolutely. So that kind of...
You should be doing the job.
That bit of pride went to his head. Do you know?
Yeah.
So I do think, even if, to be honest,
I don't know if it was the smoking ban.
Security and give them a high vis, they get an attitude.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Let's be fair. So, yeah, people abuse it in all jobs. But if it was me personally and you're saying, here, you're going to be the new Taoiseach, I would hope I wouldn't turn out like that and sell my soul for my countrymen, against my countrymen, because that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And all these things, as you say, that's coming out in the scandals and all that, tips of the iceberg.
Oh, it is tips of the iceberg. Hey, I can tell you now,
it is
mark my
tip of the
words,
iceberg.
the HSE is next.
Absolutely. And about time.
Well, I was only
No, you
listening.
were
I was only
talking a
listening to the
couple of
Oireachtas there today, I think it was, and they were talking about the HSE. It was in a separate room in the Oireachtas, and they were talking about just under €1 million of taxpayers' money paid to one consultant.
That's an absolute disgrace.
Just under $1 million to one consultant. Who?
What's wrong with the Irish? We forget very fast. Like that gentleman there, now he spoke about Tony Holohan. I personally have no problem with the man, but as a human being looking at the telly, this man made a major mistake years ago. Am I right or wrong?
Well, I would.
And they kept something very
right,
quiet.
Yeah, this is the
So
cervical cancer.
I call him a very good secret keeper. And they brought the secret keeper in again to tell us more spoofs during COVID to frighten the life out of us all. And if you can remember, did he not get 2 payments when he was being retired? That was questioned as well.
Well, it was the job that he was being given was questioned, wasn't it, as well? So but okay, let's not focus on one individual or any particular individual. I think that would be unfair to do. But generally speaking, do you believe when people get power, they abuse it and become greedy?
Absolutely. I think money can make a lot of people greedy.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, have learned money makes nobody happy.
But Fiona, if I gave you the job as the Taoiseach tomorrow and £500,000, do you not really think that would change you? Women haven't been any different in power. Look at the women in power. They're no different to the men in power. I mean, look at our Minister for Justice at the moment, for example.
Cork woman.
Oh my God.
We're tough.
I mean, go back in time. Look at Margaret Thatcher, for example. Look at, what I'm saying to you is, I know Margaret has been accused of a lot of things, by the way, and everything she did wasn't good, I'm going to be honest with you. But in fairness, I thought she was a powerful woman.
For her country, she probably was. Do you know? It's just that
minors wouldn't agree with you.
Yeah, well, she did face down Arthur Scargill back in 1984, and he was like untouchable, back at that time, Well,
it was the miners' strike that brought her down eventually. But here's the thing. Whatever government in Britain had have come in afterwards would have had to get rid of those mines, because the mines Britain were subsidising those mines. They were bringing in cheap coal from Poland. It was too expensive to be digging and going down looking for coal. So that would have happened anyway. It just happened to be during Margaret Thatcher's tenure. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But maybe the way she did it wasn't the best way in the world.
She was hardcore.
Yeah.
She was a tough woman, let's be fair.
Yeah.
She was tough. Their own country might admire her. She was tough. She was cruel. But then there was cruelty endured on the Irish for years and years,
Yeah.
So that was just, as you say, it just happened to be her generation then. But she was tough.
Right.
But getting back to people, they can abuse and take the control a bit too far. And I think our country is being pushed that way at the moment. There is, which I found, correct me if I'm wrong, during lockdown, a lot of laws were being passed while we were all being locked down.
Oh, I know.
About certain matters, about certain things. We weren't there to say, gosh, I don't agree with that now at all. So, yes, they have taken our power away. Micheál Martin and Varadkar, please.
And generally speaking, you believe men are worse than women?
Since we're very dark.
No, I know. I'm asking you, Fiona, do you believe men are worse?
Do I believe men are worse? I think it's because you have this genetic thing that it's a control thing. I can't believe I'm defending men. But I think...
Well, we have testosterone milling around in our bodies.
Too far.
Yeah. Well, hang on. Let me bring in Niamh here, the voice of reason. Niamh.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Niall. How are you?
You're live on the air. Niamh, okay, so you're the voice of reason in all this. Are men worse than women when you give them power? Is it because of all that testosterone milling around in our bodies that we need this power?
No, I don't think it's a gender thing. I think it's a personality thing. You're either that sort of person or you're not. You're either going to be like that when you get a bit of power, It doesn't have to be the leader of a country. It can be the leader of a team who suddenly goes from being on the shop floor with his or her colleagues to a place in management, and they suddenly change. That's either in you or it isn't. You know, that expression, all power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely, is true. You know, there is something very addictive, I'm sure, about having power. And it must be hugely addictive to feel like you have an entire country.
I mean, and I can relate to that in relation to people in media. And I would like to think, and I think people who know me would say, I don't have an ego. But I know people in media, many people in media, who have a massive ego.
They court it.
Yeah, but because they, I suppose, have a little bit of power.
Yeah, but it's like the irony of it. You know, they're courting fame one day, and they're literally, some people in the media are literally ringing the press saying, oh, we'll be outside the Ivy, or we'll be outside wherever, Lily's or whatever. But then they're the same people who will bitch and say, I have no privacy. Stop taking photos of me.
I know, yeah.
I'm having a bad day. I was wearing a tracksuit. Stop. You don't get to pick and choose.
Yeah.
If you're, you know, putting yourself out there and putting every single thing in your life out there, well, then that's your life. You know, you take the bad with the good. And if you expect people to support you and pay your wages, then you take what's coming to you. And, you know, for the likes of, you know, the powerful, I think the reason why we think men are worse is because there's more powerful men. There's just no way around that. There is.
Well, there's more men in power, yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
I mean, and that will balance out over the next generation.
It will.
Yeah.
And there's some great women out there. I mean, I'm sure there's wonderful women.
Are you struggling to name one there, eh? Come on.
Yeah, I actually am. I was thinking, but I think she kind of gives me a bit of a toothache.
Do you know who I thought was a great woman, right? In this country. And if she's listening, she'll probably start blushing now, right? Lucinda Creighton. She now writes for one of the newspapers, the Irish Times, I think, and I think she looks helps with some charity. She was a Fine Gael, and she lost the whip when she voted against, was it not abortion?
Termination of pregnancy, wasn't it?
It was the original termination of pregnancy bill that they brought in before the referendum. Do you remember that one after Savita? So she voted against it, yeah, and she lost the whip, and then she left politics. And she formed her own political party called Renua. They lasted about 1 year. They went into one general election, did really badly. And I'm going to tell you the reason they did really badly was because on the live debate on RTE, I don't know what happened to her, but she wasn't the Lucinda I knew. She didn't do well. Now, it was just a performance issue. She just didn't do well. But she's brilliant. I think she's a great writer. I think she's a great thinker, critical thinker. She's conservative. I'm not going to lie to you. But in saying that, I think she had great ideas in relation to taxation and how we should change the whole tax system. Like, she had some wonderful new ideas, fresh ideas.
But that's the thing, that there is wonderful people, we just don't know them. You know, there's wonderful people probably in your organisation, there's wonderful people in every single company in this country working really hard, and they're going with the idea that you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, and they're really decent employers, and they're brilliant people. We just don't know them. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the beast, we kind of only hear about things when things go really tits up, like in RTE, and we see all the bad guys. So when there's a scandal, suddenly it's like, oh, they're all terrible. But there's great people even in government, there's great people in there. People with genuine morals and who genuinely care. Not a huge amount of them, but there is people. And they're in every company. It's just that when these scandals hit, whether it be the next one be the HSE or whatever the next one is, it's only the bad guys.
It will be the HSE. It will be the HSE, by the way. The next one is.
Well, it's not a surprise. I mean, I don't blame people for being angry. They're seeing money being wasted left, right, and centre.
18 to 20 billion a year disappearing. Now, don't get me wrong. It costs money to keep people healthy. I understand that. But the money being wasted within the HSE is just
But if you are even
scandalous.
€1 over the limit, you won't get treatment, or you won't get help, or you won't get this. I understand people's frustration. People are pissed off now.
Nearly a million quid, or just under £1 million to one consultant. That's taxpayers' money. Whatever about, by the way, I have great admiration for, say, a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon or whatever it happens to be.
He does a wonderful job.
Yeah, but and you can make money, they make money privately, etc., in their private clinics. But for the taxpayer to be funding to one person to the tune of just under £1 million is outrageous. You know, sorry, I lost you there for a second, Eve, there. You're back. Go ahead.
Whereas somebody can't get help because they're €1 over the threshold, but yet we can give one man €1 million. You know, I understand he's a very highly skilled and probably a very talented man. Still, what could we... if we put it somewhere else?
Yeah. Stay there. Let me go to Jude as well. Jude, how are you doing? You're on Ireland's Classic Hits Radio.
Not too bad at all now.
Jude, it's been a little while. I hope you're okay.
Not a bother. Doing great.
Yeah.
Doing great.
Where have you been?
Not a bother.
Where have you been? Haven't heard from you. I haven't heard from you in ages.
Just doing a lot of work, working hard.
Well, that's good. It's good
building up my power base so I can corrupt people later on in life.
So, Jude, do you think that power naturally corrupts, or do you think it's the people themselves? In other words, does it not corrupt everybody? I mean, I suppose Niamh makes a good point. We only hear about the ones that are corrupted, really. We don't hear about the good ones as much.
Yeah, I think the power doesn't corrupt. I think it's the people who have it and their inability to control that power. They abuse it. They don't control it. So, and everyone is capable of it. Everyone. And anyone who says they aren't would be lying or else they're deluded. It's like that other gentleman said when he was honest about having the power of what he do if he had it. Do you remember you asked him?
Yeah, would you be the same? If I gave you, say, £1 million and you're the leader of the country, do you think you'd abuse it?
Well, it's hard to say. I can't think how more vindictive or unforgiving I could be.
You know, this is true.
Like as I am now, so I don't think I would be abusing the power. I don't think it would
You would
change
just
me
be
that
Jude.
much.
You would just be Jude.
I would still be me.
Yeah.
I would just maybe have the more ability to, impede it on people.
All right, okay. So you think it is only certain people, it's not everybody. You don't think it's... I mean, Fiona made the point that she believes there's something genetic there too in men to have more control.
I don't think so, because let's face it, history is actually littered with women who abuse power. Look at Indira Gandhi. She inflicted massive amounts of atrocities on her own people, but she wanted to decrease the population of her country, so she was all for, and she recommended the female version of castration.
Mm-hmm. Female genital mutilation, yeah.
Then there was the first female president of Argentina. She was jailed a good few years ago. I think she was jailed for about 6 or 7 years for huge amounts of corruption and money laundering.
So in other words, you're just saying power just corrupts generally. It doesn't matter what gender you are.
Yeah. And then there was Evita Peron. She elevated the stratas of whoredom onto a new stratosphere when she was when her husband was running Argentina. I don't think there will ever be a bigger whore in the world than Evita Peron for the amount of power she abused.
I mean, I know if we look back through history at women as well, and there have been fewer women in power than men, clearly, if we look back through history, but the ones that have been in power, yes, you're right, a large percentage of them abused it as well.
And Mother Teresa was hardly a saint when she was living.
She wasn't. I don't know what it is, why people talk about Mother Teresa like she's some sort of saint. I mean, she wasn't. If you've read all the books in relation to some of the stuff that she's got on with the mafia, etc., I mean, she wasn't really. And she wasn't putting the money into the people of Calcutta, that's for sure. You know?
No, exactly. So it's men and women do abuse power, but a good lot of people who have that power don't know how to control it. They abuse it. Power should be controlled, and it should be controlled to the benefit of the person themselves, but also the people they're responsible for. But they don't control it. They just abuse it. But I don't think it's just a man-woman thing. I think all across the board, men and women can abuse power, and it's been proven through history. We're littered with men and women who have abused power. So I don't think it's just a genetic thing. I think anyone who has that power, they do let it go to their head. They haven't got the ability to control it.
I mean, we've seen, I suppose, more recent examples with men. You've got Harvey Weinstein, who had quite a lot of power when it came to Hollywood, and how he abused that power. Bill Cosby, the grandfather of comedy, as they called him in America, again, he abused that power. He took advantage of women because he had power. He had women falling at his feet. If you want to go back to women, you had other women like Myra Hindley, Rosemary West. I'm trying to think of some other ones as well. Mary the First of England. Elizabeth Bathory. These were all women who had massive amounts of power and abused that power.
Yes, and the same as men would. There was, or as I said, history is littered with women who have abused power, just the same as men. But as I said, it should be controlled, not abused. And for very few people, because it's human nature in all of us. If you give someone an inch and they'll take a mile if they get away with it, or if they're allowed to get away with it.
So how? Well then, sorry, just come back to Niamh, and I'm going to come to Melissa in a second. Niamh, how do you fix the problem of people abusing power? Simple things like, for example, we'll talk about the most relevant one, RTÉ at the moment. So they had Ryan Tubridy in a job, paid the most amount of money in the television station within RTÉ. I think he was the highest paid person in RTÉ, and yet wanted more. Because he wasn't happy. Well, he says he took the pay cut. He won't admit that the compensation that he got, or the side deal that he got, the tripartite deal, was to bring up his wages again. And you have to say the public perception of that is greed. So when people have a bit of power, they want more. They want more money. They want it. How do you stop that?
I don't know, honestly, how you can, because we keep Judas 100% right. And he raised a really interesting point with all the people he named there. A good few of those women were behind the so-called leaders. If you look through history at so-called powerful men, there's usually somebody drip feeding into their ear. And you go back as far as blooming Shakespeare and Macbeth, and he wasn't the sharpest tool in the box. It was his wife. She did it. And he followed her blindly. And that can be whether it's the man following the woman or the woman following the man. There's always somebody. And I don't know how you stop that. The only way you can nearly stop that is stopping people having power, and that's impossible. Because there will always be somebody higher up than you, no matter who you are. Nearly all of us, unless you are a dictator, has somebody they must answer to. And unfortunately, 90% of the corruption that's going on is from people who mistakenly believe they don't actually have to answer to anyone anymore. They can take it and run with it and do what they want. And until we actually start jailing people, I mean, somebody said, oh, this should happen, that should happen. But how many bankers are in jail? None of them.
People keep saying that. Hold on. When we had our banking crisis back in 2009, people with the Anglo-Irish situation that time, people said, oh, but nobody went to jail. That's a lie. People did go to jail. There was 3 or 4 of them went to jail. Now, they didn't go to jail for very long, I'll be clear about that, and they got away lightly. But they did go to jail. There were bankers that went to jail.
But look how
there were only a sample few, though.
I know, yes, I know, of course, yeah. There was a few lambs thrown to the slaughter, yeah.
Look how Iceland handled nearly an identical situation. Mm-hmm. They absolutely screwed them to the wall.
Oh, well, I mean, look, if a banker is screwing the country over for billions, and that billions is costing poverty, it's people took their lives because they lost their homes. Those bankers are responsible.
For a long
Absolutely.
time.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Whereas we'd go to jail, God forbid, you don't pay your bloody TV license, you're sent to enjoy for a day. It's ridiculous. Like, there's no wonder people are losing faith. There's no fairness. You're getting people being sent to jail for ridiculous things, whereas people in power have no fear because nothing is going to happen to them.
And do you think money is the root of all of it? Do you think money is the root of all of it?
I think it's money and power, and I think they're both equally linked. I mean, which of us wouldn't be? I mean, it's the same argument. Would you be changed if you won the Euro Millions? Yeah, you probably would. Money changes people. It changes your outlook. You mix in different circles. Suddenly you're being told yes when you were being told no. Everyone's pandering to you. You think you get notions about yourself. You think you're much more powerful than you are. And when no one is watching and you just keep accumulating power, I don't know how to stop it, because unless we stop people having power, which is impossible, because somebody has to run the country.
Well, then you go down the anti-capitalist route then, don't you? Yeah.
Exactly, and then you've got communism or whatever it is, and that doesn't work either. So I don't know.
Okay, I'm looking back. There was research in 2017. The findings were published online in the Journal of Nature Human Behaviour External. And it said male and female brains react differently to selfless and selfish behaviour, with women's brains showing a stronger reward signal for kindness and generosity. If you want to believe that.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, women were more excited about being kind and generous than they were about, I suppose, being mean and selfish. Whereas men didn't have those same rewards. Huh? I don't
think that's
think.
a bit unfair. I think that's yet again a little bit more man bashing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like men are all nasty, evil characters, and women are all kind and nurturing. There's bitches out there too.
Oh, there absolutely is. Let me go to Melissa. Stay there, Jude. Let me go to Melissa. Melissa, hi.
Hi, good evening.
Good.
I'm just listening here, and I think what we've seen throughout the years, and maybe just bring it back to Ireland even, there's an awful political bloodline there. And we've always had this kind of whip system, and the person that holds the whip has the power.
Yeah.
And we have that today in our political establishment.
Yeah, if you go against the party whip, you're out the door.
You're out the door.
Yeah.
And, good luck to you. So I think there's an awful lot of agenda controlled and compromised. You're literally threatened. I know I've been there, so I can actually talk from experience.
But do you think it's mainly men are the problem?
Yes. I wouldn't say...
Well, when it comes to politics, I would agree with you. Because the only reason I'm agreeing with you is because in Ireland, 70% of politicians are male. So, of course, it's going to be men.
Yeah.
But if you brought in a gender quota of 50-50, you would have 50% of people with too much power and abusing it, women as well. Judas, I don't believe men are worse.
We're supposed to have that. We're supposed to be 40-60 at the moment.
Well, I don't agree with gender quotas at all, by the way. Can I just point out?
I don't think so either. I think the person that's good enough for the job.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Okay.
I've worked fantastic with men as much as I used to work with men quite a bit. I had a salon that was both, it was both men and women.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm quite honest, obviously the men were even in and out and less hassle.
Yeah, men operate differently to women. There's no doubt about that. But I do believe both are can be equally as bad as the other if given power and authority.
100%. But we can just even look at the likes of Walt Disney and the control he had, and you talk of ones outside of Ireland, and the influence. We have Soros out there, who's quite a frightening man.
Well, when you look at Walt Disney, and I know there's been stories in relation to Walt Disney. Many of those are theories, by the way. We don't know whether they're true or not. We'll never find out.
A family in Florida. There was 180 arrested out of Walt Disney in Florida.
Yeah.
Trafficking.
But here's the thing: the people that own it now, it's a Singapore company that own it now, probably have more power than Walt Disney ever had. And now, as you can see from Ron DeSantis, he's trying to take that power away from them. So
yeah, but I think we can just go back here, and we're talking about the power, and the solicitors and the judges and the courts. We still have the majority of men there, and that's all true political as well. Everything is coming back to what's above and Gangster House, to be honest. For this country, let's just talk about our own for now, I suppose. And what I'd like to see is the whip system removed completely, and obviously, just that whole whip system has to go. And that's where it's giving the leaders power, and the likes of Micheál Martin to have had the power, and Leo for the last number of years. So I do believe the whip system would take away a lot of that power in this country, and the HSE and TULSA are the next to come down, because I've been investigating the HSE since 2009. I actually have.
Well, I think there's another Oireachtas and PAC committee 3-week session, or probably 6-week session on the way for the HSE, I imagine, after some of the revelations today. But I have to go to a break. Stay there with me if you can as well, Niamh and Jude and Melissa. I want to ask a question before I go in the break. I'm going to ask you to WhatsApp or text in the worst boss you've ever had. Now, don't tell me their names, please. I don't want to know their names. But was it a male or a female? What was the worst boss you ever had? Was it male or female? So we'll do a little poll and we'll see, who was worse. Now, it's going to be male. The answer is going to be male for most people, because the majority of bosses in the country are men. So there are, probably 20-30% are female. That's just the way it is at the moment. That'll change over the next generation.
Ireland's Classic Hits Radio.
All right, some of your texts, by the way, WhatsApp's coming in. A woman, she was a devil. My worst two were female, says Maureen. Worst boss, Martin, was gender neutral. Somebody says, Niall, how dare you? I'm making a complaint to the Broadcasting Authority. There's more than male or female. You're going to get cancelled for calling your boss a you-know-what. That's not my current boss. I didn't say that. I said the worst boss I've ever had was a male. Male, but a female would not have a chance to get his job in the first instance, says Derry Ann. Male boss, the worst, says somebody else. Worst I ever had was a female school principal, says somebody else. Maybe they were a teacher, I don't know. Worst boss ever, a nun, and also a civil servant. They want to say something else there. Female, she recently got fired for verbally abusing a male employee to tears and firing another man for no reason. By the way, he says he's sitting in an office in Virginia, America, and browsing myhome.ie. Does that mean you're coming back to Ireland, or you're coming to Ireland if you're browsing myhome.ie? Anyway, so that's the theme tonight, by the way. Yeah, that is the theme. Where are people listening? He's listening. Jane, yes, he's listening in Virginia, Jane. All right. And it was his female boss. Anyway, so far, I'm going to say, to be fair, it's 50-50. There's clearly more men than women, people are saying, but then we have to take into consideration that more men are bosses. So I'm going to say 50-50. Let me go to John. John, how are you?
Good evening, Niall. How are you?
Good. Okay, with power, you're going to get corruption. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've been involved in politics myself, and there's an old saying that goes around when absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Something along those lines, yeah. What's the other famous one? With great power comes great responsibility. And before somebody texts in, it wasn't Spider-Man, it was actually Churchill said it first, but go on.
There is, but
or Napoleon, I think, before that.
I've encountered women in politics, and I think that they can be just as power hungry as men.
Yeah. Do you think it's human nature?
I think it is human nature to an extent, but I think women can play the victim card probably better than men can.
Right. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to leave you there for a second, John, because unfortunately your line is a little bit noisy. There's kind of music in the background. You must be out and about somewhere. And let me go to John as well. John, hi. How are you?
Right. How you doing, Niall? Radioland.
Oh, yeah. Everybody in Radioland. Welcome along, John.
Mm-hmm.
John, men or women? Who's the worst?
Which?
Who's the worst? Oh, what? You have to say what? What were you going to say to me?
No, I have to say that to everybody in Radioland.
Oh,
hello,
okay.
Everybody.
They know you're there, John. They can hear you. So, do you think you have a bit of power now?
Which?
Have you got a bit of power now because you're on the radio? Is that what it is?
No. I mean, my voice is paranoid. Don't you know that?
John, who's worse?
You know that?
Men or women?
Well, I can tell you now, it's equal between men and women. But as that last gentleman has said there, a lot of women will get away with abuse of power. Because if you think about what's happening now in RTE, you one who's after going out on mental health grounds. God knows what she's after.
Deforbs.
She'd get away with now. Deforbs, yeah. I'm not sure what you
well,
can
she might genuinely. She may genuinely be very unwell.
God knows. Yeah, but God knows how much power she wields. And now she's kind of using the medical breakdown card.
Mental health. She said she has mental health difficulties because she believes she's been treated badly. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt and see does she come forward eventually with some revelations.
But you
maybe.
See, that's the point. I mean, that's the point about women and men. And like the only thing I will say about the men, I was watching the Oireachtas there today, and it just enthralled me to say the least. Is at least the men are standing up. They're getting the shit kicked out of themselves, but at least they're standing up. Some of the women are just going, no, had enough, I'm out of here. I'm not taking the responsibility of the power that I did wield once. And I think slightly, and I'm going to come across as probably, you're a woman hater. I think women have more problem with power than men.
So you think women are not as good at dealing with power?
No, I think women now, they get power, and then when it goes against them, then they kind of just run away from it or try and cover over as quickly as possible. Where the man will kind of go, okay, yeah, I've been a bit of a bollocks. Now I'm going to have to take the repercussions of it.
I've seen men running away too.
If you look at Tubley there today now, I mean, I don't like the man. But
it's neither here nor there.
I mean, he stood up and he took the questions, he took everything coming to, and so did his agent. And I mean, I think if Tubley had to be a woman, I don't think he would have done that. I think he would have shied away.
Okay, well, hang on. Stay there for a second. Let me go to Roisin.
Hiya.
How you doing, Roisin? Let's not just focus on RTE. I'm kind of sick of RTE now, to be honest with you. But anyway, generally speaking, throughout history, do you think men or women are worse when it comes to getting power?
I definitely think women are worse dealing with it, but Of the few bosses I've had in the past, the worst one that I ever came across was a male one. And I put up with him for 3 years and I had to leave because he was so rotten. Like, he was rotten to the core.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like, he was a partnership.
Did it make your life miserable?
Oh, yeah. Like, there was...
Nothing worse than working in a place where the boss is an asshole and making your life miserable.
Yeah, you'd actually fear him. You'd fear him walking into the office.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. And the minute he walked out, everyone just went...
Yeah, I know. I know what it's like to walk into a building or a place where you work and actually hate walking in the door in case that person is there.
Don't get me wrong, I loved going in. I loved everyone else that worked in the job. I put an awful lot of my life into that job. But this particular boss, and I wouldn't mind, there was 2 of them, 2 males, but he was an absolute pig.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Like,
whatever you do, don't say where it was. Okay.
No, geez, I won't be. But I have to say, in all the other jobs that I've been in, I've had both female and male.
I had a really bad female boss once as well, by the way. Now, thankfully, I wasn't directly under her or dealing with her too much. But in saying that, the dealings I did have with her, she would terrify you. But she abused other people a lot more than me. She was a nightmare.
I think I've been... Yeah, well, that's the thing. They can, like, women... I know I'm a woman myself, but I think we can play the victim card a little bit too much, where men don't have anything to lean back on. But I have to say, I've had both female and male bosses, and it was just that terror that I had. He was an absolute terrorist. That was the only way I could describe him. But the rest, like, my current boss is a male, and honest to God, he is the best thing since sliced bread. His wife is so lucky to have him.
Well, you don't know what he's like at home.
Oh no, this fella I'd say is a little.
He's adorable. He's adorable, is he?
Oh, he is the cutest thing ever, and he's so good.
Do me a favour, I have to go to a break, Roisin. I'd love you to stay out after the break. Are we going to take 1 or 2 more after the break, or we're changing the topic? I'm sorry. We're changing the topic, Roisin. Sorry, we cut everybody short. And John, thank you very much indeed. I got some voice memos here that I want to play, but particularly just this one before I go into the news.
Niall, you were on there about the worst boss you ever had, and a lady told you about her worst boss was a principal in the school. Well, we had a worst boss as well, and he was a principal in our school. He was an ex-sergeant major in a school in the west of Ireland, and he was an animal. He made everybody sign out in the evening. He actually brought in clocking cards for the school. You had to clock in and clock out. All the windows were closed, screwed shut. None of the fire extinguishers were allowed to be opened, or the fire exits were allowed to be opened. He hated people from a certain area of the town, which I was from. He was just an animal, an absolute animal. He brought my mother in for a school meeting one time, and he actually reduced her to tears.
Wow.
Just a bully is what he was.
That's exactly what he sounds like, an absolute bully.
Real people, real opinions, real talk radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.